So, I just finished GANTZ, and oh boy, I have a lot to say about it. A warning to those viewing, this video will contain mainly panels from the manga which are incredibly graphic, both in violence and sex, so please proceed with caution. Without further ado, let's jump into it. We are Dino Junkie, and this is a look into GANTZ. Self-worth, depression, murder, torture, child abuse, the will to live, perseverance, the answer to human existence, and the value of life. These are all heavy topics that can be found within Hiroya Oku's sci-fi epic, GANTZ. GANTZ tells the story of many, but mainly of Kurono Kei, a bit of a high school delinquent, and Masaru Kato, one of Kei's childhood friends, who has seemingly grown up to be more of a responsible adult than Kei. Both die after helping a homeless man off of the train tracks, but unfortunately they are not able to get off of the tracks themselves. After death, they are transported to a room in which they meet other people who believe they died as well, and are met with a large black ball in the center of the room that gives them instructions on what this group of the recently deceased must accomplish. There is no way to leave this apartment-style room, and many debate about what this place is supposed to be. Futuristic equipment and weapons are provided, and the members of this team are transferred to different locations of Tokyo in which they begin to encounter very strange humanoid creatures. Those who did not take the instructions given seriously begin to perish, as they are either killed by the extraterrestrial figures or go out of bounds. Going out of bounds results in a beeping sound, a warning for the individual to not trek any further. Those who brush this warning to the side die due to their heads spontaneously combusting on the spot. Kei and Kato soon figured out that this is a life and death game against aliens that the ball, aka GANTZ, wants the group to kill. However, not everyone is as naive and sheepish to the new environment. A middle schooler named Nishi seems to know what he's talking about, as he spouts off quite a bit of knowledge about the game to the group in order for them to understand, and then vanishes, leaving the rest to figure it out on their own. Kato starts to feel extremely conflicted as the other members of the group kill the first alien they come across, which appears to be a young boy with an onion-shaped head. Much larger and more threatening aliens begin to appear, and all those who killed the young alien are ravaged and killed, leaving Kato to try and rationalize and explain himself. Falling under attack, Kato seemingly dies, and Kei and a few of the others transfer back after completing their mission, with Kei in tears at the loss of his friend. We see that Kato is still alive and is transferred back with none of his previous injuries, showing that as long as you are alive by the time the transfer begins, you will be brought back with no prior wounds. Those who lived are awarded points, and see that 100 points is the goal in order to win. The surviving members of this GANTZ team are now able to leave the building and return home, carrying on with their lives until, once again, they are transferred back to the room with the black ball. Only this time, there are new participants and a new set of aliens to terminate. As the GANTZ team shifts and changes due to members either dying or surviving, characters grow and begin to develop into much different vessels than they were before. GANTZ is a seinen manga through and through. I mean, the content and subject matter speaks for itself, but another keynote that I think is important is how the characters function. Some shonen have very well built and realized characters that have flaws, but typically you see two sides of the same coin. The anime protagonists who, no matter what their method of practice, are good, or the anime antagonists who, no matter what their method of practice, are bad. That is not to say you cannot get a complex villain who has good and bad, but there are formulas. Good shonen typically have more complex main characters and villains, but not every story is going to be one of the greats. What I'm trying to get at here is that GANTZ characters are extremely flawed, and they are filled with all kinds of personalities. Sorry? There are many who are selfish and don't care about the well-being or deaths of their teammates, and there are those who try to sexually take advantage of girls who are new to the GANTZ room. Many create inner turmoil as they refuse to put on their suits or use weapons and will harass other members who are fighting for their lives. Even the main characters are extremely flawed. Take Kurono, for example. Kurono starts off as this young high school guy who doesn't really seem to care about anything other than having sex with a girl and hanging out with his friends. He's extremely selfish and has the nice guy mentality for quite a while in the beginning of the story. He allows a girl on the GANTZ team that he has a crush on to stay at his house, and then tries to guilt trip her into having sex with him because he is letting her stay there. He gets upset that she likes Kato instead, and childishly begins to resent him for that. But this attitude doesn't last, and that is what really made me vibe with GANTZ. After quite a few missions being pulled off successfully, Kurono and Kato have made it with the closest they have had to a fully cooperative team. This is where we arrive at the Buddha statue mission, and it is where Kurono's character arc begins to shift. Now, I'm about to spoil this specific arc a little bit, so feel free to skip ahead. Now, in this mission, Kurono and crew seem to take out the main aliens rather quickly, almost too quickly, and it becomes clear that the challenge has not even begun. As team member after team member gets picked off, Kurono and Kato work to try and put the mission to an end before anyone else dies, only for Kato to also fall, leaving Kurono completely alone, returning solely by himself to the room with tears streaming down his face. Kurono realizes in a wave of loss that even though he himself killed the big bad and saved the day, that it didn't matter because no one survived to come back and be with him and rejoice. He might be a hero, but to who? His friends, his allies, his teammates are all dead. And so Kurono sees that it is not fame or being the hero that he so desires, but the sense of community and love that came from this group. Kurono continues on with his life broken until he meets Tai Kojima, lacking personalities, and the girl who would change his life. Tai helps Kurono to have something to hold on to in order to make him want to live in the incredibly cold, dark, and cruel world they inhabit. He doesn't care to be with the most beautiful girl or the prettiest, but simply someone who loves him for him. And this little grace period is quite beautiful, actually. It quickly delves into chaos, but for that time it is beautiful. Now, I must say, while I like Tai, by the end of the series, I wanted to punt her. The amount of times she says Kei-chan is ridiculous. If you took a shot every time she said Kei-chan, you'd be dead. It would need about 5 more people to complete the task. She's really cute and helps Kurono with maintaining his sanity, but other than that, she's about as useful as Diet Water, with an argument leaning towards Diet Water. But anyways, without getting into each and every one of my favorites, Oku does a really good job of fleshing out characters. There are times, mainly when missions are taking place, where the flow of the story feels really smooth and steady and I can easily keep up with what is going on. And then there are other times, a lot more in the higher chapters, where things are brought up that seem like common knowledge and I have no idea what they are talking about. Or something happens out of nowhere that had no setup for it in the first place, and I gotta be honest, it really took me out of the story each time it happened, because I would have to go back and look to see if I missed something. This issue may be in part to the fact that I had to read some pretty bad scans because manga is expensive as hell, so I'm not going to be paying for it. I will also say there were a few times when I was like, how did this character get here? And I think that was because of the art. Oku showed how he makes the manga, and a lot of it is done with a computer, and the janky animations for the aliens and other creatures that come out do create a feeling of an eldritch level of unsettling, but it also makes it really hard to look at and follow. A lot of the panels are gray on black on black on gray on some more gray with a little more black, and at nighttime. Needless to say, it is hard to see a lot of the panels clearly, so while some of the hand-drawn art is beautiful, the story flow and fight choreography takes a halt when I'm squinting to differentiate what I'm looking at. The society of this world is uncharacteristically dumb too. There are all kind of horrendously violent acts happening all over Japan, and nothing seems to be done about it to the point where it was just kind of a meme. Like, well, too bad those people died because the Japanese government isn't going to do anything about it. And since we're talking about story, I am going to go ahead and speak on my least favorite arc of the entire series, and that is the final phase, Invasion. It goes for almost 80 chapters, and let me tell you, you can feel those 80 chapters. There were so many times when I was like, please, just end it already. I don't care what happens to the characters anymore. Just give me a satisfying ending. So much time is spent just killing the invading equine. whatever, like aliens and Kurono trying to get to K instead of building upon the final revelation of the story, which would have been way more satisfying and well-rounded had this arc not been so long. There are so many instances when people say, "Oh, is this because the war is over?" Baiting my ass into thinking we are nearing the end, and then something else happens. A fight breaks out, and I'm sitting there just thinking,
"Oh shit, here we go again."
They did this at the very end, and it infuriated me. We found out the truth about why everything has been happening, and they have the balls to say, "Oh, so the war's over, right?" And then GANTZ teams start fighting the Horse Warriors, and the final chapter ends in a fight. It felt so anticlimactic. Kurono and Kato win the fight, and then they are heroes, the end. It felt so rushed for an arc that was set up for so long. I just wish Oku focused a little more on story, rather than just fighting for 80 straight chapters. So, here we are, we reached the end. Do I recommend this for you to read? Yes. Yes, I do. If I were to give it a rating, I guess I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It could have gotten higher, but some of the writing decisions felt a little sloppy. I really enjoyed GANTZ. I did. I think the first 200 chapters are much better than the following 180, but it was still pretty well done all around. Phase 1 is absolutely fantastic, so I would say if you don't enjoy reading it after the first 5 to 10 chapters, then don't continue, because it's probably not something you'll want to stick out. Hey, thanks for watching. Sorry for the lack of uploads. I was recently moving into my apartment, so I was not able to get a lot of work done. More videos will be coming consistently soon. Feel free to check out GANTZ. I will put the link to where you can find it in the description below. And make sure to have a good-ass day. My name is Max, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.